Can artificial intelligence help you improve your podcast and promotion? Yes. And here are 7 ways. Thank you for joining me for the Audacity to Podcast. I'm Daniel J. Lewis. Do you want to improve the content of your podcast? Jarvis, also known as Conversion AI, can help. It uses artificial intelligence and machine learning to generate blog post ideas, headlines, phrases, captions for images, and more. How good is it? What I just said was generated using Jarvis's blog post intro paragraph template. And if you look at the show notes and the article accompanying this episode at theaudacitytopodcast.com/improve with Jarvis, you'll be able to see the many different paragraphs that I read or say in this episode that were generated by Jarvis with little to no tweaking from me. Jarvis is my new favorite tool. I'm using this a lot because I'm not sure if you've noticed, but I've not been able to be very active with the Audacity to Podcast. I do still consider myself a podcaster. I just have to focus a lot more on my business and on being a full-time daddy. So when I have time to work, I need to make sure I can work as efficiently as possible. And Jarvis is an incredible tool that's helping me create content that is better and helping me create it faster and helping me get into a groove for creating content. Because there are some times that I'm just sitting staring at a blank screen and I don't know how I want to start the content that I'm working on, whether that's content for a course I'm working on, promoting a product I already have available, better marketing a product. It could be fresh content like this episode or articles that I'm trying to write on the audacitytopodcast.com or anything else like that. And Jarvis is not only helping me with that stuff, helping me get in the groove, brainstorm ideas and more. It's a lot of fun to work with. Now, this episode is not sponsored by Jarvis or Conversion AI, and you'll hear the same tool called both things, Jarvis and Conversion AI. You'll hear me mostly call it Jarvis. They didn't sponsor this episode, but I am an affiliate for Jarvis. So if you join through my link in the show notes or on the audacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis, Jarvis, I do earn a commission from that. But like with anything else, I recommend products I truly believe in, regardless of earnings. So I need you to know that up front. They're not sponsoring this. I'm not getting paid for this episode to talk about Jarvis. I only earn a commission if you buy something. But I think you're really going to want to try this tool because I love this tool too. And when you look at the article, and I really recommend you have the article pulled up on your phone, on your computer, wherever you can see it. And if you see the formatting, you'll notice multiple sections are in italics. And those are sections that were generated almost verbatim from Jarvis, or maybe with a tiny little bit of tweaking. And I'll also note those things as I go along because I will be reading some of those sentences and paragraphs as if they're my own words, but I'll let you know when they actually came from or were mostly inspired by Jarvis. So I have 7 ways that you can use Jarvis to improve your podcast and promotion. Number 1, improve your podcast descriptions. Jarvis is a nifty little tool that will take your podcast description and make it the best you've ever seen. With just 3 clicks, Jarvis automatically finds all of those perfect words to fit in there without any effort on your part. That paragraph was generated by Jarvis. Jarvis offers multiple frameworks to help market products. And when you're looking at Jarvis, it will often speak about things in terms of companies or products. Well, when you see that, just think podcast. And I've got some connections with the people who developed Jarvis, and I'm encouraging them, you need to put the word podcast in these different places or wherever you see blog post or video or YouTube video or anything like that. Podcast could probably fit in there too. So whenever you are using Jarvis and you see company/product, don't think, oh, I don't have a company or I don't have a product. Yes, you do have a product. It's your podcast, even if it's only for a hobby. But there are these multiple marketing frameworks for promoting different products and services. And these are tried and tested. And I'm just learning about these actual frameworks myself, but seeing the results is really improving the way that I think about how I promote and market podcasts, products, and services and more. So it's helping me and inspiring me to generate better content, as well as some of this content can be used verbatim. So there are currently, at the time of this recording, 3 frameworks inside of Jarvis to help you market your podcast. AIDA, which is attention, interest, desire, and action. It's sort of a funnel approach where first you get their attention, then you get them interested in something, then you build an emotional connection so they have a desire for what you're talking about. Then you give them that action of what they need to do to meet that desire. Then there's the problem, agitate, solution framework, or PAS. That's where you communicate a problem, then you agitate that problem a little bit, and then you provide the solution for that. And then there's the BAB framework, which is before, after, and bridge. Very upfront, you show the before, you show the after, and then you bridge it together. And your product or podcast is that bridge. I sent an email to my newsletter subscribers asking them for their podcast descriptions, and I received hundreds of responses back. So I couldn't use them all. I couldn't even get close to using them all, but I wanted to use some of those here for examples so that you could hear how other podcasts could use this. Not just my own made up examples are optimized for this. In almost every case, the descriptions that I'm using from the podcasters are used as they were written. I sometimes inserted the word podcast or something like that just to give the context to the artificial intelligence so that it knows we're talking about a podcast. And that's something you have to do inside of the AI, but you don't have to do that with a human inside of a podcast context. Like in Apple Podcasts, you don't have to say, this is a podcast, because they're already in Apple Podcasts, so they know it's a podcast. Using different descriptions, I got different results from different templates that Jarvis offers. And Jarvis offers a bunch of templates. But right now, let's focus on this number one thing, improving your podcast description and running it through these multiple marketing frameworks. So for the podcast Extra Virgin Food and Travel, they gave me this description. Extra Virgin is a podcast for gourmands who love to travel and travelers who love good food. Join your hosts, food and travel journalists Natasha Mirosh and bon vivant Samantha Donsky, who between them have eaten their way around more than 60 countries as they meet the passionate people who make wandering the world so rewarding and so delicious. Side note, that's my dream job. I love the little mom and pop restaurants that have delicious food. So I might be listening to this podcast. So that's the description they gave me for their podcast, Extra Virgin Food and Travel. Now I ran that description through the three different frameworks Jarvis currently offers, AIDA, PAS, and BAB. Here's what AIDA returned. Join us on our journey as we explore the world and all of its delicious food. We've eaten our way around more than 60 countries, meeting passionate people who make wandering the world so rewarding and so delicious. You won't want to miss out on this podcast that will make you hungry while also making you laugh. Subscribe now to get all our episodes free. That's a great description. Notice that it changed from being more fact-oriented of this is what the podcast is, to now more inviting, capturing your attention, then your interest, then your desire, then giving you that call to action to subscribe now, or as Apple Podcasts is changing to, we could say follow now to get all our episodes free. Now the PAS framework, problem, agitate, solution. Traveling can be a lonely and stressful experience, especially when you are constantly surrounded by unfamiliar food. The best way to combat this is to learn about the local cuisine so you know what ingredients to look out for at the supermarket. But it's also important to meet people who live there, not just tourists. You need locals as your guide through their culture and customs. This is a fantastic description, by the way. That's where Extra Virgin Food and Travel comes in. We'll help you understand how locals eat and travel in different countries around the world while sharing our tips on how we've made these experiences even better with our own hacks. Join us as we explore new cultures together from a traveler's perspective while eating some of the most amazing food that each country has to offer. That's a great description. I love that one too. Now using the before, after, bridge framework, BAB. You love to travel, but you also love good food. However, finding the best restaurants and local eateries is always a challenge. Imagine having a podcast that tells you about the best places to eat in every city you visit. It's like having your own personal tour guide who knows all of the hidden gems and where to find them. Join Natasha Mirosh and Samantha Donsky as they take on the world one bite at a time with Extra Virgin Food and Travel. Another great description. And the descriptions that I've shared, I've posted on Facebook. I've sent out some of these descriptions to my email newsletter subscribers. You might have seen some of these descriptions and other content that I'll be sharing in this episode. The podcasters are amazed by these results. And the responses I've received so far have been, wow, I'm going to use that right away. And I've run multiple podcasts through this simply to improve the description and came back with great results. So this is one way that you can use Jarvis to bring artificial intelligence to your descriptions so that your descriptions can generate that interest, can get people wanting to listen to your podcast. I think this can really help you. Check it out at theaudacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis, or the link is in your show notes for this episode at theaudacitytopodcast.com/improve with Jarvis. Number 2, brainstorm episode topics. I've spoken before on ways to brainstorm episode ideas for your podcast. That can be just looking at the news, getting ideas through the framework and perspective of the topic your podcast covers. But this AI can make it much easier. How about I let the AI describe it for you? With Jarvis, you can brainstorm the next episode topics for your podcast. You just need to type in a few words and it will give you an infinite amount of ideas. The app is perfect if you're struggling with what's going on this week or running out of topic ideas because some episodes could sound similar. That was generated, again, by Jarvis. So here's a different podcast I'm using for an example. Logbook Memories. The description they gave, and all I'm using is the title of their podcast and the description. Sometimes some of these templates don't even use a title. They just use the description. So here's their description that they provided. An aviation podcast where we discuss stories that are torn right from the pages of your pilot logbook. We're here to remind each other why we fly. Our guests look back in the pages of their logbooks and find a flight that was particularly memorable or meaningful and share the story of that flight or adventure in their own words. Now, some AI-generated topic ideas. Private pilot tips for composite aircraft. What do you love about flying? 25 things to cross off your pilot bucket list. Now, these are just 3 ideas right there that the AI generated from that description. What's really cool about Jarvis is that you can tell it a number of results to generate, or you can just keep clicking the button, generate, and it generates new results. Some of them, you may decide, that's not really the approach of my podcast, or that doesn't really fit. Then that's fine. You can just click generate, and it will generate more. You can tweak your input description a little bit if you seem to be getting really weird results. Or, like I mentioned earlier, some of these descriptions, I needed to add the word in to make it obvious to the artificial intelligence that this is a podcast. And some of these results you might tweak. For example, that last topic idea that I mentioned, 25 things to cross off your pilot bucket list. Maybe you can only come up with 10 things. Fine. Change the number to 10. Or you might want to adjust these a little bit more because you know yourself, you know your podcast, and you know your audience better than an artificial intelligence ever could. Number 3, build episode outlines. Let's let Jarvis speak again. Jarvis is a great service that can outline your episodes for you. All you have to do is input an overview, which Jarvis then transforms into bullet points with accompanying notes. It's like having a virtual assistant who gives feedback on how well structured or informative your content was at every turn. No more second guessing yourself. That paragraph was written by Jarvis, and that was built off of the subheading for this point, number 3, build episode outlines. So you can use this artificial intelligence to almost generate an episode for you, or at least give you a really good idea of what you're going to talk about in the episode. And you can use the AI to even fill out the outline more, like taking your bullet points and then giving you a longer description or an intro paragraph, or even giving you content that you can use under those bullet points, like I am doing for most of the bullet points in this list. There are so many possibilities with this. So I didn't receive any actual episode titles from anyone. I didn't ask for episode titles. I asked for podcast descriptions, but I looked through some of the descriptions of podcasts I saw, and I was able to find a couple that looked like, oh, that could be an episode title right there, that sentence or that phrase inside of their description. So I pulled some of those out and ran them through tests. And here's one that I used with my email subscribers and showed them already. For the podcast Talitera, the episode title idea I got from the description was How to Nurture Your Relationship with the Outdoors. I think that was verbatim from the podcast description that I just pulled out that little phrase. So then using that episode title idea, the AI generated this outline, and this is from Jarvis, for how to nurture your relationship with the outdoors. Number 1, get outside and explore your surroundings. Number 2, take a walk with your partner or friends in a nearby park. Number 3, plant flowers in pots on the porch or balcony. Number 4, buy furniture that is made locally. Number 5, hang pictures of family members throughout the house, including outdoorsy shots where you are hiking, camping, etc., to remind yourself of all the great times you've had together. Those are great tips, and I didn't write any of those myself. It came up with those from that episode title idea, How to Nurture Your Relationship with the Outdoors. And that could be an entire episode outline. I could keep pressing generate and it would give me more bullet points as well. And I could pick from them. I could choose number 3 from the first result, number 5 from the second result, pick all of them from the third result, combine them, take ones out that I didn't really like or didn't feel like I had much to say or wasn't just fitting or a very good point. These are incredible ways that you can build your episodes and can get you out of that rut. Like maybe just from hearing this list, you came up with ideas 6, 7, and 8 all on your own because you've been inspired. And that's what I found. Like I've been using Jarvis for rewriting several emails that I have for the Audacity to podcast with a new training series I have, several training series that I've written for my podcast reviews, like how to get more reviews. I have an all new training series, 11 ways to get more podcast reviews that I've written for the My Podcast Reviews service. And some of those were written by Jarvis. But the cool thing is that I started with Jarvis on one of them, and then it got me on a roll. I had the mental momentum to continue writing additional emails that I think turned out really well. So you can use Jarvis to build episode outlines. That's number 3. Number 4, find new marketing angles. Jarvis is the master of marketing, and he's right there to help you when you need it most. He can find new angles for your podcast in seconds, so you don't have to worry about a thing. That was generated by Jarvis. I think that we as podcasters can sometimes get too much in our little bubbles where we just don't know how to think outside the box or think outside the bubble. And whether that's topics or really how to promote our podcast. Like, what do I say for my podcast? What's my elevator pitch? What's a new way I can promote this instead of just saying my podcast talks about this? So Jarvis has a marketing angles template. They also have a crazy marketing ideas that is completely off the wall stuff that they say, do not use these. But I have found that they can be inspirational and give ideas for some other ways that you could market your podcast. But for this example, I took the Daily Radio Bible description that was provided to me. And that description is, the Daily Radio Bible is a daily podcast of the Bible read by Hunter Barnes, taking readers through the Bible in 1 year. If you have ever wanted to read through the Bible in a year or just want to use your time during your morning commute to feed your soul, the DRB is just for you. You don't have to go it alone. We can experience the Word of God together. So I gave that description and podcast title to Jarvis using its marketing angles template, and here are the results I got. Receive a daily word from the Bible. Get biblical encouragement and knowledge in your mailbox every day. Listen to God's Word read by our narrator, Hunter Barnes. Support those that are reading through the Bible this year. A modern way of reading through the Bible for today's generation. I think all of those are great. Those can be taglines. Those can be ways that you can promote your podcast in different places, whether that's on Twitter, social networks, your subtitle in different places. These can help you find new marketing angles and, like I'm going to say many times, even get you on that path and build some momentum so you can come up with your own ideas, since you know your audience, yourself, and your podcast better than an artificial intelligence ever can. Number 5, respond to reviews, especially negative reviews. If you use the My Podcast Reviews service and you receive a review, sometimes you might feel like, I don't really know how to respond to that. It could be because it's a positive review where the person is just gushing and gushing with praise for your podcast, and you don't know what to say that's more meaningful than, thanks. Well, Jarvis can help you with that. And you can let Jarvis help you respond to podcast reviews, especially negative ones. It's a great way of showing that you're human, even though you're using an AI, and not just some faceless podcast in the world. And what I just said, starting from Let Jarvis, was written by Jarvis again. So what I did here is I didn't want to throw anyone else under the bus or read anyone else's negative reviews from Apple Podcasts or any of the podcast platforms supported by mypodcastreviews.com. So I found one of my own negative reviews. This is a very old review, and this is one that hurt when I read it. And the reason why I'm using a negative review here is because I think it's more likely that we know what to say when someone gives us praise. We can be very generic with things like saying, oh, thank you so much. That means a lot to me. Or that's very kind of you to say thank you, or you're welcome, or certain things like that. It's easy to handle when someone gives us praise, or at least it's probably easier to handle appropriately than when someone criticizes us. So that's why I wanted to pull in a negative review that really hurt me when I first read this review many years ago, because I felt like this was saying my podcast was being everything I was working so hard to not let it be. Because I heard other podcasts that kind of felt like what they were describing in this review. So this 1-star review from, I'm going to pronounce it Gaira, said, 1 minute of information wrapped in 30 minutes of self-promotion. This podcast has almost no content. It's a merciless listener grab and affiliate marketing attempt, packed with worthless buzzwords like how to and top 5, but it doesn't deliver. He seems like a nice guy, and I'm surprised he would try to treat people as naive cash cows and listener statistics. Let me just say, ouch. I mean, even today reading that, I don't ever want to be seen as the guy that's just out there trying to make money or trying to sell you some secret formula or anything like that. And I hope that you know I'm not that kind of person. I've never wanted the Audacity to Podcast to be that, and I don't want to be that kind of person. And I know that sometimes that means I'm not going to make as much money as other people out there who do self-promote themselves much heavier than I ever do. And I'm fine with that. I'd rather do what I think is right than make a whole lot of money. But anyway, now I gave that review to Jarvis, and Jarvis has a spot where you can enter the name of the person who left the review, the number of stars, 1 to 5 stars, which is the same as for podcast reviews. They are 1 to 5 stars. And then, of course, the review text. So I put that into Jarvis for their review responder template. And here is the AI-generated response. And I've tweaked this just a little bit to correct a couple of the things that were factually incorrect. Like it referred to a course, I believe, in the review. But the Audacity to Podcast isn't a course, it's a podcast. So I just changed that a little bit to make it factually correct. Here's the response it gave me. And again, this is generated by artificial intelligence at the audacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis. Thanks for taking the time to review the Audacity to Podcast, Gaira. I'm sorry you didn't find it helpful. It's true that my podcast is a marketing strategy and affiliate marketing opportunity, but there are also 30 plus episodes of content. Now, there's something factually incorrect. I could say there are 300 plus episodes of content with interviews from experts. Again, factually incorrect. I could change that. With interviews from experts, entrepreneurs, authors, etc., as well as practical tips and resources on how to start your own podcast or improve yours. So while I do have an incentive to get people onto my email list through this free resource, I hope they'll stay for more than just the promo or one episode. And there's a lot about that I can resonate with. There are some things, of course, that I would want to tweak if I were to send this back as a response to make it factually correct. Like I don't do interviews on my podcast. But this gives me a much better response. And also, it can help change my mindset by reading this response. And it can help settle me down. So I'm not sending back some kind of thing where I'm trying to defend myself or say, well, you're wrong, you're stupid for leaving me a negative review like that. This can help put me on a level mindset so that I can respond appropriately and maybe even learn from the review better, because I can realize, all right, they said this thing is true, but I'm going to own that. Maybe change the way I approach it, but I will own that thing. And obviously, this means my podcast isn't for them. So this can be a great way to better respond to those reviews, especially your negative reviews. That's number 5. Number 6, focus on your podcast value and benefits. One of the ways you can use Jarvis is to help people understand your podcast's value and benefits. In other words, answering what's in it for me. And half of that paragraph was written by Jarvis. I ran this through a couple different templates. Jarvis has a unique value propositions template, and a features to benefits template. Both of these are really focused on communicating that value, the benefits, the what's in it for me answer for your podcast. Now, these don't use a product or a company or podcast title, but just so you know what podcast we're talking about, this was the description for the School Savvy podcast. And the description is, the School Savvy podcast shares knowledge with parents and students to help students in grades K through 12 succeed. You will learn about academic skills, life skills, student mental health, careers, college, and more. We answer questions you didn't know you had. Remember, when you increase your knowledge, you increase your options. Join us each week and get school savvy. So I took that description and ran it through the unique value propositions template inside of Jarvis, and it gave back these 3 results. A podcast for parents and students. 100% free weekly podcast that covers the basics of life skills, academic skills, student mental health, career planning, and more. Learning about school and life skills is easier than ever with School Savvy. Those are some good, unique value propositions, and you could tweak those a little bit or expand on them. Now, running some of that description through the features to benefits, Jarvis breaks up the results into 2 sections, standard benefits and emotional benefits. And I ran this a couple times and polled what I liked from both of them. So for standard benefits, here's what it returned. Get your child to love school. Learn how to help them thrive in their classes. Learn from experts in the field. Be informed with up-to-date information about education. Do you see what it's doing? It's answering that question, what's in it for me? Or it's explaining the benefits, not just the features. It's not saying this podcast has up-to-date information about education. The benefit is be informed with up-to-date information about education and learn how to get your child to love school. Those are benefits. And now some emotional benefits that it suggested. Give your child the best education possible. That's pretty cool. Feel like you're part of the solution for your child's success. Those are good emotional benefits that it communicated from that description that I have of the podcast. So this can help you to, instead of describing your podcast as simply a list of features, we talk about this, we talk about that, we cover this, we interview these kinds of people, we cover these stories, we cover this TV show, really focusing on the benefits. What's in it for me? Why should I listen to this podcast? And number 7, write better headlines. The headlines on your blog posts and episodes are the first thing people see. It's important to craft a headline that will catch their attention while still being relevant. And that was written by Jarvis. Whether you're looking for an episode title or subheadings for within your episode, Jarvis can help. So I wanted to give it my own description for this example because I wanted to see what kind of headlines could it give me for this very episode, because the title that I used on this episode is different from the first title idea that I had. So here's the description I gave Jarvis. Jarvis can help you improve your podcast promotion and content. Here are the AI-generated headlines. Improve your marketing and content with Jarvis. Get more downloads, subscribers, and engagement with Jarvis. The best podcast maker for podcasters on the market today. Okay, that's factually incorrect, but I could throw that out, adapt it, anything like that. Podcast growth made easy. Put your podcast on steroids with Jarvis. Get the most out of your podcast. Why you need more listeners and sponsors for your podcast. You could use this for many different things, whether it's content inside of your individual episodes, or it is titling those episodes or articles themselves to write better headlines. And these might not work perfectly for you, but they might get you closer to something that's perfect for you and your audience and your podcast than that blank page that you keep staring at. So these are 7 ways to improve your podcast and promotion with Jarvis. You can get all of these links and see these examples that I've read and used in the show notes at theaudacitypodcast.com/improve with Jarvis. I also embedded a couple videos of my showing you how you can use Jarvis for podcasting uses. I walk through several of the templates, use several different examples, explain things, talk about certain corrections that we might make along the way. A couple videos are available there. In total, they're probably longer than this podcast episode is, but I think if you really want to see Jarvis in action in real time with no editing, so you can see how quickly you get so many great results, then definitely go to the show notes and check out those results. Once again, these 7 ways are: number 1, improve your podcast descriptions. Number 2, brainstorm episode topics. Number 3, build episode outlines. Number 4, find new marketing angles. Number 5, respond to reviews, especially negative reviews. Number 6, focus on your podcast's value and benefits. And number 7, write better headlines. Here's something you need to remember. Now, if you go over to the audacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis, you can get a free trial for 5 days. I'm not sure if that trial will remain forever, so I'm going to say through the end of March 2021, I know that trial will be available. A free 5-day trial, so you can try it with your own podcast description and try it with these different templates, and I think you're going to love it. I really enjoy this tool. But here's what you need to remember as you're using this tool for your podcast, for articles, for products, for your business, for whatever you use this for. I'm finding all kinds of uses for Jarvis. I really do enjoy this tool. And I am a paying customer, by the way. They didn't give it to me for free. I pay for this myself, and I really like using it. You need to remember this. AI should never completely replace you. Now, nothing of what I'm about to say was generated by Jarvis because I wanted this written completely by me. While many of these examples are amazing and could probably be used verbatim, you may need to tweak some things. Jarvis doesn't know everything, so it can be factually incorrect sometimes, like saying your podcast started in 2008 or guessing on some details. But you can easily correct these things. In fact, inside of Jarvis, it makes it very easy that you simply click into the text and you can change the text before you copy it out or you save it to your favorites. You also know yourself, your show, and your audience better than an artificial intelligence. So you can use the AI-generated results as starting points to create your own content or edit the results to better fit your unique needs. But what I found the Jarvis AI can do is give me a much better start to many things, help me brainstorm stuff. It has often helped me get in a focused mindset and give me that momentum to then create the content myself. Even though it wasn't AI generated, I started with something that was AI generated and then just went off to the races, as they say, and started writing my own content because I was in that groove. The AI can help you with these things. It won't completely replace you, so don't worry about that. But it can certainly help you a lot, especially if you struggle with communicating some of these things in writing, or you want to find ways that you can improve things like your podcast descriptions, or find ways to really focus on the benefits instead of simply the features. So I really, really highly recommend that you try Jarvis yourself, and you can try it free for 5 days through at least until the end of March 2021. Go to theaudacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis to sign up there. And even if you don't get the free trial when you join through that link, you should probably get some other kind of bonus, whether that's a certain number of words or bonus pricing or bonus word credits that you can use, anything like that. And word credits, by the way, don't worry about jumping to the highest plan right now. I'm on the 20,000 word plan that I can generate 20,000 words per month, and I haven't used that yet, all completely. The actual numbers don't carry over, but if you get any kind of bonuses, and they give out bonuses a lot, if you do receive bonuses, those do not expire and they do roll over into the next month. So I highly recommend that you check this out and go to the show notes to really look over these different things. And you can even use these, even if you don't sign up for Jarvis yourself, you can look at these sample descriptions and episode ideas and the ways that the AI worked with the descriptions. And you might be able to apply that same practice to your own content to really think, all right, am I focusing more on the features or the benefits? Or how can I change my podcast description so instead of simply describing my podcast, I'm capturing someone's interest, then their attention, then their desire, and then giving them a call to action. And if you decide to join Jarvis, please remember to join through my link, at theaudacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis, or that link is in the show notes as well. And I do earn a commission from that if you join, but that is the only way I earn a commission. And I'm recommending this product because I use it myself. I really like it. I truly believe in it. That's at theaudacitytopodcast.com/Jarvis. I think it's also worth noting that something I really like about the company is they are very personable and transparent. They do frequent webinars and community interactions where you get to see them use Jarvis, and they answer questions. They do frequent trainings. I feel like I'm getting to know the people behind Jarvis, and they have a fantastic Facebook group too, where a lot of people are celebrating their victories and sharing some of the funny things that come out of Jarvis every now and then. It's a lot of fun and really great, encouraging community. I'm in there too, sharing some stuff and responding to things as well. So I really think you should check it all out. It's available in the show notes at theaudacitytopodcast.com/improve with Jarvis. And now that I've given you some of the guts and taught you some of the tools, it's time for you to go start and grow your own podcast, maybe with some artificial intelligence, for passion or profit. I'm Daniel J. Lewis from theaudacitytopodcast.com. Thanks for listening. If you're still listening, thank you. I want to share just a little bit of an update here. The Audacity podcast is going to be on an erratic schedule. My schedule has significantly changed. I really need to focus on building and running my business and on being a daddy to my wonderful little boy. And so the Audacity podcast is not on a regular schedule, unfortunately. I'll get episodes out when I can, so definitely make sure you stay subscribed. I'm not going to end the Audacity podcast, but what you can do, and I highly recommend in the meantime, is go to the website, theaudacitytopodcast.com, because I will be trying to publish articles when I can, because sometimes it's much easier for me to write an article because I can work on that more in different segments of time than it is to record a podcast episode, which takes a lot more time to sit down and record and everything involved with that. So keep an eye on theaudacitytopodcast.com. And on my social accounts, I'm at the Daniel J. Lewis in most places so that you can see when I have new content out there. I'm not out of podcasting. I just am focused a lot on my business and on being the best daddy that I can be to my little boy. So maybe I can be the Dan Carlin of podcasting and release epic episodes every now and then. That can be my hope. But please continue to share the Audacity podcast. Please continue checking out the products and services that I offer, especially my podcast reviews. We've got a lot of great improvements for that, a lot more still coming with that. That is a primary focus in my business right now, is building that product up and adding a lot of great new innovations to it, like the lovethepodcast.com feature that we launched a few months ago, and a lot more still coming. That's at mypodcastreviews.com. And keep an eye on my website, theaudacitypodcast.com, for articles, new episodes, and more. And I hope to be more visible in different places, but with everything going on and where my time needs to be spent